What's up, YouTube people? Shaggy the Writer coming at you again with another live stream of Oliver Twist. We're getting really close to the end of the book, so I figured it'd be a shame to completely drop this topic just because my webcam is trash. So, per usual, these are sub for sub. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments. The last few times I did this, I tried to make it episodic, so there was less breaks in between the actual literature. Um, but I will get to all questions and comments eventually if you're patient. So, skipping the recap, diving right in. Chapter 46, The Appointment Kept. The church clocks chimed 11:15 as two figures emerged on London Bridge. One, which advanced with a swift and rapid step, was that of a woman, who looked eagerly about her as though in quest of some expected object. The other figure was that of a man, who slunk along in the deepest shadow he could find, and at some distance accommodated his pace to hers, stopping when she stopped, and, as she moved again, creeping stealthily on, but never allowing himself, in the ardor of his pursuit, to gain upon her footsteps. Thus they crossed the bridge from Middlesex to Surrey shore, when the woman, apparently disappointed in her anxious scrutiny of the foot passengers, turned back. The movement was sudden, but he who watched her was not thrown off his guard by it. For shrinking into one of the recesses which surmount the piers of the bridge, and leaning over the parapet the better to conceal his figure, he suffered her to pass by on the opposite pavement. When she was about the same distance in advance as she had been before, he slipped quietly down and followed her again. At nearly the center of the bridge she stopped. The man stopped too. It was a very dark night. The day had been unfavorable, and at that hour and place there were few people stirring. Such as there were hurried quickly past, very possibly without seeing, but certainly without noticing either the woman or the man who kept her in view. Their appearance was not calculated to attract the important regards of such of London's destitute population as chanced to take their way over the bridge that night in search of some cold arch or doorless hovel wherein to lay their heads. They stood there in silence, neither speaking nor spoken to by any one who passed. Mist hung over the river, deepening the red glare of the fires that burnt upon the small craft moored off the different wharfs, and rendering darker and more indistinct the murky buildings on the banks. The old smoke-stained storehouses on either side rose heavy and dull from the dense mass of roofs and gables, and frowned sternly upon water too black to recollect even their lumbering shapes. The tower of old Saint Saviour's Church and the spire of Saint Magnus, so long the giant wanderers of the ancient bridge, were visible in the gloom, but the forest of the shipping below bridge and the thickly scattered spires of churches above were nearly all hidden from the sight. The girl had taken a few restless turns to and fro, closely watched meanwhile by her hidden observer, when the heavy bell of St. Paul's tolled for the death of another day. Midnight had come upon the crowded city. The palace, the night cellar, the jail, the madhouse, the chambers of birth and death, of health and sickness, the rigid face of the corpse and the calm sleep of the child, midnight was upon them all. The hour not struck 2 minutes when a young lady accompanied by a gray-haired gentleman alighted from a hackney carriage within a short distance of the bridge, and having dismissed the vehicle, walked straight towards it. They had scarcely set foot upon its pavement when the girl started, and immediately made towards them. They walked onward, looking about them with an air of persons who entertained some slight expectation which had little chance of being realized, when they were suddenly joined by this new associate. They halted with an exclamation of surprise, but suppressed it immediately, for a man in the garments of a countryman came close up, brushed against them, indeed, at that precise moment. "Not here," said Nancy hurriedly. "I'm afraid to speak to you here. Come away out of your public road, down the steps yonder." As she uttered these words and indicated with her hand the direction in which she wished them to proceed, the countrymen looked round and, roughly asking what they took up the whole pavement for, passed on. The steps to which the girl had pointed were those which on the Surrey bank, on the same side of the bridge as St. Saviour's Church, from a landing stairs to the river. To this spot the man bearing the appearance of a countryman hastened unobserved, and after a moment's survey of the palace, he began to descend. These stairs are a part of the bridge. They consist of 3 flights just below the end of the second. Going down the stone wall on the left terminates in an ornamental pilaster walking towards the Thames. At this point, the lower steps widen, so that a person turning at the angle of the wall is necessarily unseen by others on the stairs who chance to be above him, if only a step. The countryman looked hastily around while he reached this point, and as there seemed no better place of concealment, and the tide being out, there was plenty of room, he stepped aside with his back to the pilaster, and there waited, pretty certain that they would come no lower, and even if he could not hear what was said, he could follow them again with safety. She so tardily stole the time in this lonely place, and so eager was the spy to penetrate the motives of an interview so different from what he had been led to expect, that he more than once gave the matter up for lost, and persuaded himself either that they had stopped far above, or had resorted to some entirely different spot to hold their mysterious conversation. He was on the very point of emerging from his hiding place and regaining the road above, when he heard the sound of footsteps, and directly afterwards of voices almost close at his ear. He drew himself straight upright against the wall, and scarcely breathing, listened attentively. "'Tis far enough," said the voice, which was evidently that of a gentleman. "We'll not suffer the young lady to go any further. Many people would have distrusted you too much to have come so far, but you see I am willing to humour you." "To humour me?" cried the voice of the girl whom he had followed. "You consider it indeed, sir, to humour me? Well, it's no matter." Here's a picture of the meeting. Hi, Caleb Smalley. Anyone who's here should definitely subscribe to Caleb. You've been a very good boy. Oh, a very lowercase god boy. What did you get anointed? Ah, that yeah, that's a picture of the meeting though. It's pretty dope. Thanks for the like, Caleb. Something so uncommon in her manner, and the flesh of the concealed listener crept as the girl uttered these words, and the blood chilled within him. He had never expected a greater relief than in hearing the sweet voice of the young lady as she begged for her to be calm, and not allow herself to become the prey of such fearful fancies. "Speak to her kindly." These words appeared to be addressed to the young lady, and were perhaps uttered with the view of affording Nancy time to recover herself. The gentleman shortly afterwards addressed himself to her. "You were not here last Sunday night," he said. "I couldn't come," replied Nancy. "She always kept more force." "By whom?" "It was that I told the young lady of before." "You are not suspected of holding any communication with anybody on the subject which has brought us here tonight, I hope?" asked the old gentleman. No, replied the girl, shaking her head. It's not very easy for me to leave him unless he knows why. I couldn't have seen his age when I did, but when I gave him a drink of the laudanum before I came away. Did he awake before you returned? Inquired the gentleman. No, and neither he nor any of them suspect me. Good, said the gentleman. Now listen to me. I'm ready, replied the girl as he paused for a moment. This young lady, the gentleman began, has communicated to me in some other. I repeat that I firmly believe it. To prove to you that I am disposed to trust you, I tell you without reserve that we propose to extort the secret, whatever it may be, from the fears of this man Monks. But if, said the gentleman, he cannot be secured, or if secured cannot be acted upon as we wish, we must deliver up the Jew. Fagin, cried the girl, recoiling. That man must be delivered by you, said the gentleman. Oh, we'll not do it. Oh, we'll never do it, replied the girl. Devil that he is, and worse as the devil he has been to me. Oh, we'll never do that. You will not, said the gentleman, who seemed fully prepared for this answer. Never, returned the girl. Tell me why. For one reason, rejoined the girl firmly, for one reason that lady knows you will stand by me, or I know she will, for I have her promise, and for this other reason besides that bad yacht is dead, I have yet a bad yacht too. There are many of us who have kept the same courses together, and I'll not turn upon them who might. Any of them who turned upon me, but didn't bad as they are. Well then, said the gentleman quickly as he put his as if this had been the point he had been aiming to attain. Put Monks into my hands and leave him to me to deal with. And what if he turns against the others? I promise you that in that case, if the truth is forced from him, there the matter will rest. There must be circumstances in Oliver's little history which would be painful to drag before the public eye, and if truth is once elicited, they shall go scot-free. And if it is not? Suggested the girl. Then, pursued the gentleman, this Jew shall not be brought to justice without your consent. In such a case I could show you the reasons, I think, which would introduce you to yield it. Have I the lady's promise for that? Asked the girl. You have, replied Rose, my truest and most faithful pledge. Monks would never learn how you knew what you do, said the girl after a short pause. Never, replied the gentleman. The intelligence could be so brought to bear upon him that he could never even guess. I've been a liar and among liars from a little child, said the girl, and after an interval of silence, but I will take your words. After receiving an assurance for both that she might safely do so, she proceeded in a voice so low that it was often difficult for the listener to discover even the purport of what she said, to describe, by name and situation, the public house whence she had been followed that night. From the manner in which she had occasionally paused, it appeared as if the gentlemen were making some hasty notes from the information she communicated. When she had thoroughly explained the localities of the place, the best position from which to watch it without exciting observation, and the night and hour on which Monks was most in the habit of frequenting it, she seemed to consider for a few moments the purpose of recalling his features and appearance most forcibly to her recollection. He is tall, said the girl. He is tall-made man, but not stout. He has a jerking walk, and as he walks
constantly looks over his shoulder, first on one side and then on the other. Don't forget that, for his eyes are sunk in his head so much deeper than any other man's that you might almost tell him by that alone. His face is dark like his hair and eyes, and although he can't be more than 6, 8, or 20 withered and haggard, his lips are often discoloured and disfigured with marks of teeth, for he has desperate fits, and sometimes even bites his hands and covers them with wounds. Why did you start?
said the girl, stopping suddenly. The gentleman replied in a hurried manner that he was not conscious of having done so, and begged her to proceed.
Part of this, said the girl, I've drawn out from other people it's a house I tell you of, for I've only seen him twice, and both times it was covered up by a large cloak. I think that's all I can give you to know him by. Stay, though, she added, upon his throat, so high as you can see a part of it below his neckerchief when he turns his face there is.
A broad red mark, like a burn or scald, cried the gentleman.
How's this? Said the girl. You know him.
The young lady uttered a cry of surprise, and for a few moments they were so still that the listener could distinctly hear them breathe. I think I do, said the gentleman, breaking silence. I should by your description. We shall see. Many people are singularly like each other. It may not be the same. As he expressed himself to this effect with assumed carelessness, he took a step or two nearer to the concealed spy, as the latter could tell from the distinctness with which he heard him mutter, It must be he. Now, he said, returning, so it seemed by the sound, to the spot where he had stood before, you have given us most valuable assistance, young woman, and I wish you to be better for it. What can I do to serve you?
Oh, nothing,
replied Nancy. You will not persist in saying that, rejoined the gentleman with a voice of emphasis and kindness that might have touched a much harder and more obdurate heart. Think now. Think now, tell me.
Nothing, sir,
replied the girl, weeping.
You can do nothing to help me, or best all hope indeed.
You put yourself beyond its pale, said the gentleman. The past has been a dreary waste for you, the youthful energies misspent in such priceless treasures lavished as the Creator bestows but once and never grants again. But for the future, you may hope. I do not say that it is in our power to offer you peace of heart and mind, for that must come as you seek it. But a quiet asylum either in England or, if you fear to remain here, in some foreign country. It is not only within the compass of our ability, but our most anxious wish to secure you before the dawn of morning, before this river wakes to the first glimpse of daylight. You shall be placed as entirely beyond the reach of your former associates, and leave as utter an absence of trace behind you as if you were to disappear from the earth this moment, to exchange one word with any old companion, or take look at any old haunt, or breathe the very air which is pestilence and death to you. Quiet them all while there is time and opportunity.
She will be persuaded now, cried the young lady. She hesitates, all I'm sure.
Oh, fear not, my dear, said the gentleman.
Why, sir, I do not,
replied the girl after a short struggle.
I'm changing my life. I loathe and hate it now, but I cannot leave it. I must have gone too far to turn back. Yet I don't know, for if you had spoken to me so some time ago, I should have laughed it off. But,
she said, looking hastily round,
this fear comes over me again, and I must go home.
repeated the young lady with great stress upon the word. Oh wait,
Home.
repeated the lady with great stress upon the word.
Home, lady.
Rejoined the girl.
To such a home as I raise for myself is the work of my own life. Get this pot and be washed or seen. Go, go, if I have done you any service. All I ask is that you leave me and let me go my way alone.
It is useless, said the gentleman with a sigh. We compromise his safety perhaps by staying here. We may have detained her longer than she expected already.
Yes, yes, urged the girl, you have.
What? Cried the young lady.
Can the end of this poor creature's life be at hand? What?
Repeated the girl.
Look before you, lady. Look into dark water. How many times do you read you such an offspring into the tide, and leave no living thing to care for or bewail them? Or must be years hence, or maybe only months, but I shall come to that at last.
Don't speak thus, I pray, returned the young lady, sobbing.
It will never reach your ears, lady, God forbid such horrors should, replied the girl. Good night, good night.
The gentleman turned away. That purse, cried the young lady. Take it for my sake, that you may have some resources in an hour of need and trouble.
No,
replied the girl.
I have not done this for money. Let me have that you think of, and then give me something that I have worn, or had to think of. I should like to think you have something. No, no, not ring, your gloves or handkerchief. Anything I can keep as having belonged to you, sweet lady. There, bless you. God bless you. Good night, good night.
The violent agitation of the girl and the apprehension of some discovery which would subject her to ill usage and violence seemed to determine the gentleman to leave her as she requested. The sound of retreating footsteps were audible, and the voices ceased. The two figures of the young lady and her companions too afterwards carried upon the bridge. They stopped at the summit of the stairs. Hark! cried the young lady, listening. Did she call? I thought I heard her voice.
No, my love,
replied Mr. Brownlow, looking sadly back.
She is not moved, will not till we are gone.
Rose Maylie lingered, but the old gentleman drew her arm through his and led her with gentle force away. As they disappeared, the girl sunk down nearly at her full length upon the stone stairs and vented the anguish of her heart in bitter tears. After a time she arose, and with feeble, tottering steps ascended to the street. The astonished listener remained motionless on his post for some minutes afterwards, and having ascertained with many cautious glances round him that they were alone again, crept slowly from his hiding place and returned stealthily and in the shade of the wall in the same manner as he had descended. Peeping out more than once when he reached the top to make sure that he was unobserved, Noah Claypole darted away at his utmost speed and made for the Jew's house as fast as his fat little legs would carry him. Okay, so we are on chapter 47, Fatal Consequence. I love that ominous name. I got a link to click. Oh my gosh. A link to click, and I have to subscribe to Roshan Zehen. Dope name, Roshan. Let me try and see about pulling up your page real quick first so we can get this out of the way. Thanks for showing up today. We're going to probably do at least a good 2-3 chapters. YouTube doesn't like making stuff easy for real. Everything takes like an hour to load. You just gotta give me a sec, Roshan, and this will be up. God, this is painfully slow. Do the hustle. Do the hustle. Do the hustle. Again, apologies. This is insanely slow. Like, there is no reason for it to be this slow. But I'm trying to sub to you, Roshan, so give me just a sec. This is really getting painfully slow. I'm just not liking it at all. Finally. Okay. Well, nope, never mind. I spoke too soon. Ugh. Don't pull up my video. That's stupid. I don't want to hear myself. Quit being stupid. YouTube. This is why I usually wait till the end of the video, but then at the end of the video, I can't even remember the people's names and like it never comes up afterwards. Yo, what's up, Prophecy? If I remember correctly, you were wanting me to do a freestyle rap last time. My problem is I'm kind of garbage, so you gotta give me a minute. But you know what? I'll do some dirt for you real quick, man. Fuck a beat, I'ma do it a cappella. Sitting here looking like a shaggy ass fella. Making hoes jella like Magellan. Got you motherfuckers committing crimes looking like you some felons. I'd rather sit here and spit some quick quips from Charles Dickens shit like Oliver Twist. That's all I got for now. Just because it's loading slowly and it's really just distracting the shit out of me. So, thumbs up for curse words. I've been good up until recently, man. This is terrible. Like, why did it have to pull up a friggin' video? This is so lame and stupid. Just his name. Okay. If you don't search before this ad comes up, then that is on you, YouTube. That is 100% on you. You cannot get mad at me over stupid crap that you are doing right now. Subbed. Okay, so we got that taken. Check back after this is done and double check that because here we're clicking Caleb's link. If it ever lets me, this is why I don't like clicking links while I'm doing this. Okay, we are pulling up Caleb's video, I think. Again, apologies. Ganja Smoke Shaggy and the Mystery Machine. Gotta constantly keep rolling up green. Keep Fred and Velma off of my back. Throwing little quarters and chips at Daphne's butt crack because she be sagging her pants a little too low. And I'm just sitting here acting a little too slow. And you know what? That's why I keep packing the dro in my bow as we go on the road till we go from mystery to the next mystery shop. We rarely see paranormal when we go to stop, and we searching for ghosts, man. Where they at? I just keep seeing creepy dudes who wear creepy hats and wear stupid costumes and make hella noise to try and steal silly things from girls and boys. But we always go ahead and hand them to the boys just because they'll leave me alone and they know that I enjoy my spliffs back to back to back to back. That's all, kids. Don't do crack. See, it's really distracting when you're trying to wait for stuff to load. I really owe y'all like just 16 bars one of these days on something that's actually not trash, but congrats on making your allowance, though, Caleb Smalley. Oh boy. Ah! Caleb, this link is killing me. I hope you're aware. This is literally making me want to throw my computer right now. There is nothing good about having to wait this long for something to load. Oops, something went wrong. That's lovely. That is lovely. Everything else is going right. You're just being a jerk. Come on, YouTube. Either load for me or I'm going to start telling people about 19 CV 2407 CABAHG because they should know about 19 CV 2407 AHG CAB. That's right, YouTube. Every time you piss me off from now on, I'm just going to start dropping that in here because you want to take all day to load a link that I don't even really care that much about, but I want to do it just for the one kid who is literally tuned into every last one of these videos. And now he knows that you're awful as well because 19 CV 2407 CAB AHG, a case in California, which is basically going to put you bastards out of business at Alphabet for attempting to put way too much effort into enslaving mankind with technology and being way too complicit in genocide. Okay. Well, Caleb, it's not going to load. So we're going to go back on this genocide-loving platform. Again, sorry. I tried. You can't say I didn't try. I gave up a tea break just so I could sit there for 5 minutes and wait for this damn thing to load. Oh, now you're trying to put me at my Gmail because, yeah, no. Okay, so we'll double check and make sure that I sub to you, Roshan, before this is like uploaded later because it only takes like 8 hours to upload these stupid things. Chapter 47, Fatal Consequences. YouTube sucks. 19 CV 2407 CABAHG. Have fun Googling that or Ecosia searching that, because I don't think that you should trust Google searches when Google's got their crap on the line. Chapter 37, Fatal Consequences. It was nearly 2 hours before daybreak. That time, which in the autumn of the year may be truly called dead of night, when the streets are silent and deserted, when even sound appears to slumber, and profligacy and riot have staggered home to dream. It was at this still and silent hour that the Jew sat watching in his old lair, with a face so distorted and pale, and eyes so red and bloodshot, that he looked like a man that he looked less like a man than like some hideous phantom, moist from the grave and worried by an evil spirit. He sat crouching over a cold hearth, wrapped in an old torn coverlet, with his face turned towards a wasting candle that stood upon the table by his side. His right hand was raised to his lips, and as absorbed in thought, he bit his long black nails. He disclosed among many toothless gums a few such fangs as should have been a dog's or rat's. Stretched upon the mattress on the floor lay Noah Claypole, fast asleep. Towards him the old man sometimes directed his eyes for an instant, and then brought them back again to the candle, which, with long burnt wick drooping almost double, and hot grease falling down in clots upon the table, plainly showed that his thoughts were busy elsewhere. Indeed they were. Mortification at the overthrow of his notable scheme, hatred of the girl who had dared to palter with strangers, and utter distrust for the sincerity of her refusal to yield him up, bitter disappointment at the loss of his revenge on Sykes, and the fear of detection and ruin and death, and a fierce and deadly rage kindled by all. These were the passionate considerations which, following close upon each other, were rapid and ceaseless whirl, shot through the brain of Fagin, as every evil thought and blackest purpose lay working at his heart. He sat without changing his attitude in the least, or appearing to take the smallest heed of time, until his quick ear seemed to be attracted by the last footstep in the street. "At last," muttered the Jew, wiping his dry and fevered mouth, "at last." The bell rang gently as he spoke. He crept upstairs to the door, and presently returned, accompanied by a man muffled to the chain, who carried a bundle under one arm. Sitting down and throwing back his outer coat, the man displayed the burly frame of Sykes. "Yeah," he said, laying the bundle on the table. "Take care of that, and do the most you can with it. It's been trouble enough to get. I thought I should have been here 3 hours ago." Fagin laid his hand upon the bundle, and looking in the cupboard, sat down again without speaking. But he did not take his eyes off the robber for an instant during this action. And now that they sat over against each other, face to face, he looked fixedly at him, with his lips quivering so violently, and his face so altered by the emotions which had mastered him, that the housebreaker involuntarily drew his chair, and surveyed him with a look of real affright. "What now?" cried Sykes. "What do you got a man so for?" The Jew raised his right hand and shook his trembling forefinger in the air, but his passion was so great that the power of his speech was for the moment gone. "Damn!" said Sykes, feeling in his breast with a look of alarm. "He's gone mad. I must look to him myself here." "No, no," rejoined Fagin, finding a voice. "It's not. You're not the Pleasonville. I've no fault with fine with you." "Oh, you haven't, have you?" said Sykes, looking sternly at him, and ostentatiously passing a pistol into a more convenient pocket. "That's lucky for one of us. Which one is that? Don't matter." I've got to tell you, Bill, said the Jew, drawing his chair nearer. Will make you worse than me.
Oi,
Returned the robber in an incredulous air.
tell you why you sharp on lunch we think I'm lost.
Lost? Cried Fagin. She's pretty well settled that in her own mind already. Sykes looked with an aspect of great perplexity into the Jew's face, and reading no satisfactory explanation of the riddle there, clenched his coat collar in his huge hand and shook him soundly.
Speak you will,
He said,
or you don't it shall be for want of breath. Open your mouth and say what you've got to say in plain words. Out with it, you thundering old cur, out with it.
So suppose that lad that's lying there, Fagin began. Sykes turned round to where Noah was sleeping, if he had not previously observed him.
Well,
He said, resuming his former position. Suppose that lad, pursued the Jew, was to pitch to blow up upon us, first seeking out the right folks for the purpose, and then having a meeting with them in the street to paint our likenesses, describe every mark that they may know us by, in the crib where we might be most easily taken. Say he was to do all this, and besides to blow upon a plant we've all been in more or less of his own fancy, and not to be trapped or grabbed or tied, earwigged by the parson and brought in on bread and water, but on his own fancy, to please his own taste, stealing them all at nights to find those most interested in us, and preaching to them. Do you hear me? Cried the Jew with his eyes flashing with rage. Suppose he did all this, what then?
what then?
Replied Sykes with a tremendous oath.
If he's after you or come, or grind his skull under the old heel of my boot, and so as many grains as there are hairs upon his head.
Well, what if I did it? Cried the Jew almost in a yell. I that know so much and could hang so many besides myself.
Oh, don't know,
Replied Sykes, clenching his teeth and turning white at the mere suggestion.
or do something in the jail that'd get me putting irons, and if I was tried along with ya, I'd fall upon with them in open court and wish your brains out of all the people. Also have such strength,
Muttered the robber, posing his brawny arm.
that I could smash your head as if a loaded weapon had gone over it.
You would?
Would I? Said the housemaker. Try me.
If it was Charlie or the Dodger or Bet or...
I don't care who,
replied Sykes impatiently.
whoever it was, I'd serve them the same.
Fagin looked hard at the robber, and motioning him to be silent, stooped over the bed upon the floor, and shook the sleeper to rouse him. Sykes leant forward in the chair, looking on with his hands upon his knees, as if wondering what all this questioning and preparation was to end in. Bolta! Bolta! Oh, poor lad, said Fagin, looking up with an expression of devilish anticipation, and speaking slowly and with marked emphasis. He is tired of watching her so long. Watching for her, Bill.
What do you mean?
Asked Sykes, drawing back. The Jew made no answer, but bending over the sleeper again, hauled him into a sitting posture. When his assumed name had been repeated several times, Noah rubbed his eyes and, giving a heavy yawn, looked sleepily about him. Tell me that again, just once again, for him to hear, said the Jew, pointing at Sykes as he spoke.
Tell you what,
Asked the sleepy Noah, shaking himself pettishly. That about Nancy, said the Jew, clutching Sykes by the wrist, as if to prevent his leaving the house before he had heard enough. You followed her.
Yes, To the London Bridge. Yes, unless he met two people. So she did. A gentleman and a lady she had gone to of her own accord before, who asked her to give up all her pals in Monk's Foist, which she did, and to describe him, which she did, and to tell her what house it was that we met at, and to go to, which she did, and where it could be best watched from, which she did, and what time all the people went there, which she did. She did all this. She told every word of it. Without a threat, without a murmur, she did she not? Cried the Jew, half mad with fury. All right, replied Noah, scratching his head. That's just what it was. What did they say about the last Sunday? Demanded the Jew. About last Sunday, replied Noah, considering. What told you that before? Again, tell it again, cried Fagin, tightening his grasp on Sykes and brandishing the other hand aloft as the foam flew from his lips. They asked you, said Noah, who, as he grew more wakeful, seemed to have a dawning perception of who Sykes was. They asked her why she didn't come last Sunday as she promised, and she said she couldn't. Why? Interrupted the Jew triumphantly. Tell him that. Because she was forcibly kept at home by Bill, the man she had told him of before, replied Noah. What more of him? Cried the Jew. What more of the man she had told him of before? Tell him that. Why, they couldn't very easily get out of the doors unless she knew where she was going to, said Noah. And so the first time she went to see the lady, she... it made me laugh when she said that she did. She gave him a drink of laudanum. Who's for? Cried Sykes, breathing fiercely from the Jew. Let me go. Flinging the old man from him, he rushed from the room and darted wildly and contemptuously up the stairs. Bill! Cried the Jew, following him hastily. A word! Only a word! The word would not have been exchanged but that the housebreaker was unable to open the door, on which he was expecting fruitless oaths and violence when the Jew came panting up. Let me out, said Sykes. Don't speak to me. It's not safe. Let me out, I say. Hear me speak a word, rejoined the Jew, laying his hand upon the lock. You won't be... Well, said the other, you won't be too violent, Bill, whined the Jew. The day was breaking, and there was light enough for the men to see each other's faces. They exchanged one brief glance. There was fire in both of their eyes, which could not be mistaken. I mean, said Fagin, showing that he clearly felt all disguise was now useless, not too violent for safety. Be crafty, Bill, but not too bold. Sykes made no reply, but pulling open the door of which the Jew had turned the lock, dashed into silent streets, without one pause or moment's consideration, without once turning his head to the right or left, or raising his eyes to the sky, or lowering them to the ground, but for looking straight before him with savage resolution, his teeth so tightly compressed that the strained jaw seemed starting through his skin. The robber held on his headlong course, not muttered a word nor relaxed a muscle until he reached his own door. He opened it softly with a key, strode lightly up the stairs, and entering his own room, double-locked the door, and lifting a heavy table against it, drew back the curtain of the bed. The girl was lying half-dressed upon it. He had roused her from her sleep, for she raised herself with a hurried and startled look. "Get up," said the man.
Is it you, Bill?
Said the girl with an expression of pleasure
at his return.
It is, was the reply. Get up!
There was a candle burning, but the man hastily drew it from the candlestick and hurled it under the gate. Seeing a faint light in the early day without, the girl rose to undraw the curtain.
Yes, be, said Sykes, thrusting his hand before. There's enough all I've got to do.
Bill,
said the girl in a low voice of alarm.
what do you look like, Amy?
The robber sat regarding her for a few seconds with dilated nostrils and heavy breast, and then, grasping her by the hand and throat, dragged her into the middle room, and looking once towards the door, placed a heavy hand upon her mouth.
Bill, Bill,
Grasped the girl, wrestling with the strength of mortal fear.
I won't scream or cry, not once. Hear me, speak to me, tell me what I have done.
You know, you she devil,
rejoined the robber, suppressing his breath.
You will watch you not every word you said was heard.
Then spare my life for the love of heaven as I spared yours.
Rejoined the girl, clinging to him.
Oh, Bill, dear Bill, you cannot have the heart to kill me. Oh, think of all that I have given up. Oh, it is one night for you. You have time to think and save yourself this crime. I will not use my hold. You cannot throw me off. Bill, Bill, for dear God's sake, for your own, for mine, stop before you spill me blood. I've been true to you upon my guilty soul, I have.
The man struggled violently to release his arms, but those of the girl were clasped round his, and tear her as he would, he could not tear them away.
Bill,
cried the girl, striving to lay her head upon his breast.
the gentleman and the dear lady told me tonight of a home in some foreign country where I could have my days in solitude and peace. Let me see them again and beg them on my knees to show the same mercy and goodness to you, and let us both leave this dreadful place and far apart these better lives, and forget how we have lived except in prayers and never see each other evermore. It's never too late to repent. They told me so, or for you now, but we must have time, a little time.
The housebreaker freed one arm and grabbed his pistol. The certainty of immediate detection if he fired flashed across his mind, even in the midst of the fury. He beat it twice with all the force he could summon upon the upturned face that almost touched his own. She staggered and fell, nearly blinded with the blood that rained down from the deep gash in her forehead, but raising herself with difficulty on her knees, drew from her bosom a white handkerchief, Rose Maylie's own, and holding it up with her folded hands as high towards heaven as her feeble strength would allow, breathed one prayer for mercy to her Maker. It was a ghastly figure to look upon. The murderer staggered backward to a wall, and shutting out the sight with his hand, seized a heavy club and struck her down. Ah, man, not Nancy. That sucks. Chapter 38, The Flight of Sykes. Fuck everybody. I need a drink of some tea. Caleb, your link didn't work. I'm even going to put that in the comments just in case you're not still watching. Roshan, I don't know if that came up yet for you, if you know that I subbed. And Prophecy, I don't even know if that was a good rap before. I'd just be way too into my zone sometimes. Ooh, let me get this. I'll be right back.
All of a twist will return momentarily after a word from these sponsors.
Damn, I drank all my tea. bullshit. This is bullshit. I cannot deal with this shit. High density polyurethane. Oh. Whoa. I'm taking a break. I'm taking a break. I'm taking a break. Government semi-stacks, I refuse to stunt. Can't say I earned the shit, I refuse to front. Gotta sit out here and keep making affronts to all these whack little losers who hate on my blunts and my joints. I be getting straight to the point. Everyone who discuss me is a one. Hi, little girl. That's my pretty doll. Oh, that's perfect. Bill Sykes' voice always hurts so much. We're back. We're live. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Oh boy. No, the turnout today isn't quite as good as usual. I'm definitely still having fun with this, and I've seen quite a few people show up, so. Yeah, just because Google's being obstinate, or YouTube being obstinate, not letting me pull up links or sub to people right now. Check out the case that they're currently fighting to suppress. 19 CV 2407 CABAHG. Back into this hellhole. Oh, man. He beat a woman to death. Oh, of all the bad deeds that under the cover of darkness had been committed within wide London's bounds since night hung over it, that was the worst. Of all the horrors that rose with an ill scent upon the morning air, that was the foulest and most cruel. I agree. I hate Bill Sykes. Now I just hate him even more. The sun, the bright sun that brings back not light alone, but new life and hope and freshness to man, burst upon the crowded city in clear and radiant glory. Oh, excuse me. Ah, ah. Through costly colored grass and paper-mended window, through cathedral dome and rotted crevice, it shed its equal ray and lightened up the room where the murdered woman lay. It did. He tried to shut it out, but it would stream in. If the sight had been a ghastly one in the dull morning, what was it now in all that brilliant light? He had not moved. He had been afraid to stir. There had been a little motion and a motion of the hand. With terror added to hate, he had struck and struck again. Once he threw a rug over it, but it was worse to fancy the eyes and imagine them moving towards him than to see them glaring upward as if watching the reflection of the pool of gore that quickly quivered and danced in the sunlight on the ceiling. He had plucked it off again, and there was the body, mere flesh and blood, no more, but such flesh and so much blood. He struck a light, kindled fire, and thrust the club into it. There was hair upon the end, which blazed and shrunk into the light cinder, and, caught by the air, whirled up the chimney. Even that frightened him, sturdy as he was, but he held the weapon till it broke, and then piled it on the coals to burn away and the smolder into ashes. He washed himself and rubbed his clothes. There were spots that would not be removed, but he cut the pieces out and burnt him. How those stains were dispersed all about the room. The very feet of the dog were bloody. Oh my God. This is hurting me. Yeah, this hurt my soul a little bit. Apologies. All this time, he had never once turned his back upon the corpse. No, not for a moment. Such preparations completed, he moved backward towards the door, dragging the dog with him, lest he should soil his feet anew and carry out new evidences of the crime into the streets. He shut the door softly, locked it, took the key, and left the house. He crossed over and glanced up at the window to be sure that nothing was visible from the outside. There was the curtain still drawn, which she would have opened to admit the light she never saw again. It lay nearly under there. He knew it. God knew how the sun poured down on that very spot. The glance was instantaneous. It was a relief to have got free of the room. He whistled on the dog and walked rapidly away. He went through Islington, strode up a hill at Highgate, on which stands the stone in honor of Whittington, turned down to Highgate Hill, unsteady of purpose and uncertain where to go, struck off to the right again almost as soon as he began to descend it, and taking the footpath across the fields, skirted Cane Wood, and so came out on Hempstead Heath, traversing the hollow by the Vale of Health. He mounted the opposite bank, and crossing the road which joins the villages of Hampstead and Highgate, made along the remaining portion of the fields to the heath at North End, in one of which he laid himself down under a hedge and slept. Soon he was up and again, not far away into the country, but back towards London by the high road, then back again, then over another part of the same ground as he had already traversed, then wandering up and down the fields and laying on ditches' brinks to rest, and starting up to make for some spot to do the same, and ramble on again. Where could he go that was near and not too public, to get some meat and drink? Hendon? That was a good place, and not far off, and not a most people's way. Thither he directed his steps, running sometimes, and sometimes with a strange perversity, loitering at a snail's pace, or stopping altogether, and idly breaking the hedges with his stick. When he got here, all the people he met, the very children at the doors, seemed to view him with suspicion. Back he turned again, without the courage to purchase bit or drop, though he had tasted no food for many hours, and once more he lingered on the heath, uncertain where to go. He wandered over miles and miles of ground, and still came back to the old place. Morning and noon had passed, and the day was on the wane, and still he rambled to and fro, up and down, and round, and still lingered about the same spot. At last he got away and shaped his course for Hatfield. I hope someone shoots him. There, I said it. Feels better. It's like before he was just a dick, now he's a murderer. He murdered a chaotic good character, too. It was 9 o'clock at night when the man, quite tired out, and the dog, limping and lame from the unaccustomed exercise, turned down the hill by the church of the quiet village, and plodding along the little street, crept into a small public house, whose scanty light had guided them to the spot. There was a fire in the tap room, and some country laborers were drinking before it. They made room for the stranger, but he sat down in the furthest corner, and ate and drank alone, or rather with his dog, to whom he cast a morsel of food from time to time. The conversation of the men assembled here turned upon the neighboring land and farmers, and when those topics were exhausted, upon the age of some old man who had been buried on the previous Sunday. The young men present considered him very old, and the old men present declaring that he had been quite young. Not older, one white-haired grandfather said, than he was, with 10 or 15 years of life in him at least, if he had taken care. There was nothing to attract attention or excite alarm in this. The robber, after paying his reckoning, sat silent and unnoticed in his corner, and had almost dropped asleep when he was half awakened by a noisy entrance of a newcomer. This was an antic fellow, half peddler, half mountebank, who travelled about the country on foot to tend hones, storps, razors, washballs, harness paste, medicine for dogs and horses, cheap perfumery, cosmetics, and such like wares, which he carried in a case slung to his back. His entrance was signalled for various homely jokes with the countrymen, which slackened not until he had made his soup and opened his box of treasures, which he ingeniously contrived to unite business with amusement.
"What brings you, Stoof? Good to eat, Harry,"
said a grinning countryman, pointing to some composition cakes in one corner.
"Yes," said the fellow, producing one. "This is the infallible and invaluable composition for removing all sorts of stain, rust, dirt, mildew, spit, speck, spot, or spatter from silk, satin, linen, cambric cloth, crepe stuff, carpet merino, muslin, bombazine, or wooling stuff. Wine stains, fruit stains, beer stains, water stains, paint stains, pitch stains, all stains come out with all rub of the infallible and invaluable composition. If a lady stains her honour, she has only need to swallow one cake and she's cured it once, for it's poison. If a gentleman wants to prove he's only need one boat of one little square, and he's put it beyond question, for he's quite as satisfactory as a pistol bullet, and a great deal nastier on your favour, consequently taking more credit for it. 1 penny a square, with all these virtues, 1 penny a square, plus 19.95 shipping and handling.
Okay, I added that last part, but still. That's what it sounded like to me. I came this close to reading him in a Billy Mays voice, like really close. Oh. There were two buyers directly, and more of the listeners plainly hesitated. The vendor, observing this, increased his loquacity.
He shall
Come, but he crossed over and listened. The guard was standing at the door, waiting for a letter bag. A man dressed like a garden keeper came up that moment, handed him a basket, which lay ready on the pavement.
Oh, that's for your people,
Said the guard.
Now you get your in there, will you? Damn that here bug. It won't ready us not afford us. That's all you do, you know.
Anything new in town, Ben? Asked the gamekeeper, drawing back the window shutters, the better to admire the horses.
There's nothing that I know on,
Replied the man, piling his gloves.
Corns up a little. I hear talk of a murder too down in Spacelfield's way, but I don't reckon much upon it.
Oh, yes, quite true, said the gentleman inside, who was looking out the window.
And a dreadful murder it was. Oh, was it, sir?
Rejoined the guard, touching his hat.
Man or woman play, sir? Oh, a woman.
Oh, a woman, replied the gentleman.
It is supposed. Now, Ben, cried the coachman impatiently.
Damn that here bag, said the guard.
Are you going to sleep again?
Coming, cried the office keeper, running out.
Coming,
growled the guard.
Oh, and so is a young woman with property is going to take your fancy, see me? Why, I don't know, in you've owed. All right.
The horn sounded a few cheerful notes, and the coach was gone. Sykes remained standing in the street, apparently unmoved to what he had just heard, and agitated by no stronger feeling than a doubt where to go. At length he went back again and took the road which leads from Hatfield to St. Albans. He went on doggedly, but as he left the town behind him and plunged into the solitude and darkness of the road, he felt a dread and awe creeping upon him which shook him to the core. Every object before him, substance or shadow, still or moving, took the semblance of some fearful thing, but these fears were nothing compared to the sense that haunted him of the morning's ghastly figure following at his heels. He could trace its shadow in the gloom, supply the smallest item of the outline, and note how stiff and solemn it seemed to stalk along. He could hear its garments rustling in the leaves, and every breath of wind came laden with that last low cry. If he stopped, it did all the same. If he ran, it followed. Not running, too. That would have been a relief. But like a corpse endowed with mere machinery of life, and borne at one slow, melancholy wind that never rose or fell. At times he turned with desperate determination, resolved to beat this phantom off, giggity, though it should look him dead. But the hair rose on his head, and his blood stood still, for it had turned with him and was behind him then. He had kept it before him that morning, but it was behind him now, always. He leaned his back against a bank and felt that it stood above him, visibly out against the cold night sky. He threw himself upon the road, on his back upon the road. At his head it stood silent, erect, and still, a living gravestone, with its epitaph written in blood. Let no man talk of murderers escaping justice, and hint that Providence must sleep. There were 20 score of violent deaths in one long minute of that agony and fear. There was a shed in a field he passed that offered shelter for the night. Before the door were 3 tall poplar trees, which made it very dark within, and the wind moaned through them with a dismal wail. He could not walk on till daylight came again. And here he stretched himself close to the wall to undergo a new torture. For now a vision came before him, a constant more terrible than from which he had escaped. Those widely staring eyes, so lustrously and so glassy that he had better borne to see them than to think upon them, appeared in the midst of the darkness, light in themselves, but giving light to nothing. There were but 2, but they were everywhere. If he shut out the sight, there came the room with every well-known object, some indeed that he would have forgotten if he had gone over its contents from memory, each in its accustomed place. The body was in its place, and its eyes were as he saw them when he stole away. He got up and rushed to the field without. The figure was behind him. He re-entered the shed and shone and shrunk down once more. The eyes were there before he had lain himself along. And here he remained in such terror as none but he can know, trembling in every limb, and cold sweats starting from every pore, when suddenly there arose upon the night wind the noise of distant shouting, and the roar of voices mingled in alarm and wonder. Any sound of man in that lonely place, even though it conveyed a real cause of alarm, was something to him. He regained his strength and energy at the prospect of personal danger, and springing to his feet, rushed into the open air. The broad sky seemed on fire, rising into the air with showers of sparks and rolling one above the other were sheets of flame lightening in the atmosphere for miles, the driving clouds of smoke in the direction where he stood. The shouts grew louder as new voices swelled the roar, and he could hear the cry of fire mingled with the ringing of an alarm bell, the fall of heavy bodies, and the crackling of flames as they twaned round some new obstacle and shot aloft as though refreshed by food. The noise increased as he looked. There were people there, men and women, light, bustle. It was like new life to him. He darted onward straight headlong, dashing through brier and brake, and leaping gate and fences madly as the dog, who caneered with loud and sounding bark before him. He came upon the spot. There were half-dressed figures, tearing to and fro, some endeavoring to drag the frightened horses from the stables, and others driving the cattle from the yard and outhouses, and others coming laden from the burning pile amidst the shower of falling sparks and tumbling down of the red-hot beams. The apertures where doors and windows stood an hour ago were disclosed a mass of raging fire. The walls rocked and crumbled into the burning well. The molten lead and iron poured down, white hot, upon the ground. Women and children shrieked, and men encouraged each other with noisy shouts and cheers. The clanking of the engine pumps and the spring hissing of the water as it fell upon the blazing wood added to the tremendous war. He shouted too till he was hoarse, and flying from memory and himself, plunged into the thickest of the throng. Hither and thither he drove through the night, now working at the pumps, and now hurrying through the smoke and flame, but never ceasing to engage himself wherever noise and men were thickest. Up and down the ladders, upon roofs and buildings, overflow floors that quaked and trembled under his weight, under the lee of falling bricks and stones. In every part of that great fire was he, but he bore a charmed life, and had neither scratch nor bruise, nor weariness, nor thought till morning dawned again, and only smoke and blackened ruins remained. Trying to get rid of his dog because he's a cunt. He doesn't know any better, I guess. Yeah, there's the illustration. This is a surprisingly uncunty thing he's doing, though. This mad excitement over, there returned with tenfold force the dreadful consciousness of his crime. He looked suspiciously about him for men who were conversing in groups, and he feared to be the subject of their talk. The dog obeyed the significant beck of his finger, and they drew off stealthily together. He passed near an engine where some men were seated, and they called to him to share their refreshment. He took some bread and meat, and as he drank a draught of beer, heard the firemen, who were from London, talking about the murder.
He's gone to Birmingham, they say, said one. But you have time yet, for the scouts are out. And by tomorrow night there'll be a cry all throughout the country.
He hurried off and walked till he almost dropped upon the ground. And there, hang on, let me answer this phone call. Sorry. That will probably be the thing that gets me a copyright strike against the Ring. Hello? Why is the line recorded? Okay. Yeah. I'm okay. I was kind of in the middle of something. Well, just tell me what this is about. Yeah, probably in the near future, but I gotta go for now. And yeah, no, when I say I'm busy, I want you to keep it brief. Just tell me what you want. Right, it's just like they're making me regret donating blood. Real wonderful, Tyler. You're a trash person. I give up. He hurried off and walked till he almost dropped upon the ground, then lay down in a lane and had a long but broken and uneasy sleep. He wandered on again, irresolute and undecided, and oppressed with the fear of another solitary night. Suddenly he took the desperate resolution of going back to London.
There's somebody to speak to there with all events, he thought. A good hiding place too. You never expected to have me there, and what was your country sense? Why can't I be there for a week or so and force him down from Fred and get aboard your France? Game or biscuit?
He acted upon this impulse without delay, and choosing the least frequented roads began his journey back, resolved to lie concealed within a short distance of the metropolis, and entering it at dusk by a circuitous route, to proceed straight to the part of it which he had fixed on for his destination. The dog, though, If any descriptions of him were out, it would not be forgotten that the dog was missing, and had probably gone without him. This might lead to the apprehension as he passed along streets. He resolved to drown him and walked on, looking for a pond, picking up a heavy stone and tying it to a handkerchief as he went. The animal looked up into the master's face while these preparations were making, and whether his instinct apprehended something of their purpose, or the robber's sidelong look at him was sterner than his ordinary, sulked a little further in the rear than usual, and cowered as he came more along the way. When his master halted at the brink of a pool and looked round to call him, he stopped outright.
You hear me call? Come on,
cried Sykes. The animal came up from very force of habit. But as Sykes stooped to attach the handkerchief to his throat, he uttered a low growl and started back.
Come back,
said the robber, stamping on the ground. The dog wagged its tail, but moved not. Sykes made a running noose and called him again. The dog advanced, retreated, paused in an instant, turned, and scoured away at the hardest beat. The man whistled again and sat down and waited in the expectation that he would return. But no dog appeared, and at length he resumed his journey. Chapter 49. Monks and Mr. Brownlow at length meet. Their conversation and the intelligence that interrupts it. Yeah, we're going to call it a quits right there. Okay, but before I go, I will click your link, Caleb, because apparently it's important. So we will pick it up at chapter 49 next time. Okay, it's loading now. Let's take a look at what happens here. Oh boy, I'm done for today. I can't do this no more. So if I was just reading, it would be a lot easier than reading it out loud. Hi, little girl. You're a good dog. Yeah, you're a beautiful dog. You're even better than Bill's dog. By far. That would have really upset me if they made him kill his dog. I'm not going to lie. Link is still loading. Isn't that nuts, though, that... Nope, something went wrong. Yeah, no, that's all, man. That's really wild because, like, everyone jokes about how in movies, you know, these like disaster movies, they'll casually show millions of people getting killed, but one dog has to make it out of there safely. Like, you do not want to see a dog get killed in a movie. It just ruins the movie for everybody. And that might have ruined this book for me. Oh, but yeah, no, YouTube is being a jerk. So once again, Caleb, I'm going to repeat myself. 19 CV 2407 CAB AHG. So yeah, it didn't work, Caleb. I'm just going to keep trolling YouTube for a couple seconds. 19 CAB 8 19 CV 2407 CAB AHG. 19 2407 I'm just trolling YouTube. Ah, yes, because 192407. Oh, man, I didn't even type in the CV when I typed that in. Wow, did you just kick me off YouTube? What the fiznuck? What is this? Come on. God, it's like Microsoft knows that I hate them. And I also hate Apple. It is not hard for you to hide this. Come on. I cannot wait to get a new laptop. There. Just for that, I'm going to type this in here like 3 more times. 19 CV 2407 CABAHG. Don't ever forget that case. Because Alphabet, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, complicit in genocide and really don't give a crap about your well-being at all. So yeah, like I said, from now on, whenever they interrupt anything, I'm just going to troll them by stating this case out loud that they keep trying to cover up. But it's a case, so it's public knowledge, and worth researching. Don't Google it though, because they probably will have a hard time pulling it up. Use Ecosia. They plant a tree whenever you use their service. But we're gonna call it a day. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up, like my video today. Let me see though. I'm not 100% sure if I subscribe to you, Roshan Zahen, but I tried. In prophecy, I don't know if I'm sub to you either, and it's killing me because like YouTube is just extremely annoying to me. But I really, really want these to be. I really want these to be sub for sub. So just drop a comment in here if any of that didn't work for some reason. But thank you so much for your time, brain power, and energy coming out today. It's been fun, but I'm done. So again, I really appreciate everybody. One love.